Charleston White documentary. The landscape of modern internet culture is frequently dominated by figures who defy simple categorization. These personalities often rise from the fringes of digital platforms, wielding language as both a weapon and a performance piece, and challenging the comfortable norms of public discourse. Among the most significant and certainly the most polarizing of these figures is Charleston White. To understand him is not merely to track the viral moments, the incendiary interviews, or the headline-grabbing commentary. It is to engage in a complex study of radical transformation, the economics of internet attention, and the uncomfortable ways in which digital media mirrors the fractured nature of our contemporary social fabric. Over the course of the next hour, we will move past the soundbites to explore the man behind the persona, the journey from his early life, the catalyst for his current ideological stance, and the reasons why he remains one of the most debated participants in the digital public square. It was during these years of incarceration that the foundations of his current rhetorical style were laid. He did not emerge from this experience with a desire to assimilate into the society that had locked him away. Instead, he emerged with a deeply cynical, highly observational, and intentionally confrontational method of processing authority. He began to view the entire structure of the justice system, the social programs aimed at assisting the underprivileged, and the mainstream narratives surrounding inner-city struggle with a profound, almost corrosive skepticism. When he eventually transitioned back into the world, he brought with him a narrative of institutional failure, a story that posited the idea that the structures of help often create environments of dependency and cyclical ruin. For many years, Charleston White remained largely removed from the public eye. He navigated the complexities of post-incarceration life, and he observed the shifts in the cultural zeitgeist through the emerging lens of social media. He saw how the internet allowed individuals to bypass traditional media gatekeepers, how it enabled the unfiltered broadcast of opinion, and how it incentivized a specific brand of provocation. In the early stages of his rise to prominence, he began to document his thoughts on these platforms. His early content was often rooted in the discussion of street life, the nuances of the criminal justice system, and the critiques of the cultural habits he felt were destroying his community. However, the Charleston White the world would eventually come to know was not created through quiet commentary. He was forged in the heat of digital confrontation. He discovered early on that by adopting a persona that directly attacked the sacred cows of the culture, by ridiculing figures who were previously considered untouchable, by dismantling the respectability politics that often surrounded discussions of race and criminality, and by weaponizing his own history as a former delinquent. He could command an unprecedented level of attention. He became a master of the engagement economy, learning that controversy was the primary engine of growth on platforms like YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. He adopted a rhetorical style that is difficult to place on a traditional political spectrum. At times, he sounds like a staunch conservative, promoting the values of individual responsibility, entrepreneurship, and a disdain for social safety nets. At other times, he utilizes the language of the streets, flipping the script on figures who claim a life of crime while simultaneously profiting from the corporate systems he claims to despise. His commentary is rarely consistent in a logical sense, but it is remarkably consistent in its intent: to disturb, to provoke, and to dismantle the perceived authenticity of those he chooses to target. This approach has led to an endless series of clashes. He has publicly criticized major figures in hip-hop, community activists who have spent their lives in service to their neighborhoods, and even law enforcement agencies. He often frames these attacks as an attempt to expose hypocrisy. When he mocks a rapper for promoting violent crime in their lyrics, he frames it as a critique of a culture that profits from the destruction of its own youth. When he criticizes an activist, he frames it as a dismantling of a professional class that he believes benefits from keeping neighborhoods in a state of perceived crisis. By positioning himself as the outsider who has seen it all, he creates a narrative where he is the only one brave enough to speak the truth, regardless of the social cost. The sociological implications of Charleston White's popularity are significant. He is a direct product of the digital age's demand for the raw, the authentic, and the uncensored. In a world of carefully curated influencer personas and corporate-managed brand images, he offers something that feels undeniably real to his audience, even if that reality is intentionally aggressive and frequently mean-spirited. His supporters often point to his willingness to speak out against established narratives as a sign of his independence. They see him as a truth-teller in a post-truth world. Conversely, his critics see him as an agent of chaos, a man who exploits the vulnerabilities of the youth and contributes to the overall toxicity of the digital environment. One must also consider the role of trauma in his public evolution. He does not shy away from the horrific realities he witnessed during his time in the justice system. When he recounts these stories, the tone of his commentary shifts. The cynicism remains, but there is a layer of pain and frustration that permeates his words. He has spoken, at length, about the failures of the educational system, the lack of mentorship for young men in his situation, and the profound lack of empathy he encountered from the systems of correction. This is the context that he uses to validate his extreme opinions. He argues that he is a product of his environment, and his aggressive defense of himself is a survival mechanism that he is simply projecting onto the digital screen. Furthermore, he has successfully commodified his own controversy. He has built a brand that thrives on the very people who claim to dislike him. He understands the mechanics of the viral loop, where his comments trigger a backlash. The backlash triggers a second wave of engagement, and that engagement draws more people to his channels. He has effectively monetized the act of being disliked. This is a strategy that has been mastered by many modern media figures, but few have applied it with the calculated, high-energy aggression that characterizes the Charleston White brand. As we look at his trajectory, it is clear that his platform is unlikely to stabilize. He exists in a space of permanent, high-velocity transition. He is always looking for the next target, the next topic that will generate the next wave of outrage. His career is a testament to the fact that in the internet era, attention is the ultimate commodity, and the easiest way to garner attention is to create a sense of constant, unfolding friction. He is a mirror held up to the audience. He reflects our obsession with conflict, our desire for unfiltered personalities, and our struggle to find consensus in a landscape that is increasingly polarized. What is it about the man that keeps people listening for hours on end, even when they find his positions repulsive? It is the same draw that keeps people watching high-stakes political debates or reality television. It is the drama of the uncensored individual. In a society that is governed by complex laws, social contracts, and subtle codes of conduct, Charleston White represents a direct, unfiltered, and deeply provocative challenge to those systems. He is the personification of the voice that says what others are afraid to think, or at least, that is the role he has cast for himself. Whether one views him as a necessary provocateur who forces us to confront uncomfortable truths, or as an unhelpful agitator who creates unnecessary division, it is impossible to deny that he has tapped into a profound vein of American discontent. He is, in many ways, a tragic figure. He is an individual who has spent decades being shaped by the very systems he now aggressively attacks. His worldview is one that was hardened in isolation, fueled by the feeling of being discarded by the society he was born into. It is a worldview that offers no room for nuance, because in the environment where he was raised, nuance was a luxury that often led to victimization. This is why his rhetoric is so black and white. It is the rhetoric of a person who has had to live in a world where there are no gray areas. He is a man who is continuously fighting a war that he believes ended for everyone else but himself. The question of his future is a fascinating one. How long can a brand built on perpetual outrage be sustained? Can he evolve into a figure of more nuanced influence? Or is he trapped in the feedback loop of his own provocation? There is a certain limit to how far one can push a public before they grow weary of the performance. But thus far, he has proven his critics wrong time and time again. He has shown an incredible ability to pivot, to stay ahead of the cultural curve, and to remain relevant in a landscape that typically consumes and discards its stars within a matter of months. As he continues to grow his media footprint, it is important to remember that he is not just a digital entertainer. He is a figure who has been touched by the machinery of the state, the trauma of the streets, and the promise of the digital age. His life is a collision of these disparate realities. To ignore him is to ignore a significant, albeit challenging, part of the contemporary American experience. We do not have to agree with his conclusions to acknowledge that he is articulating a frustration that millions of people feel. He is speaking to the alienation, the distrust of institutions, and the feeling that the game is rigged against the individual. His legacy, if it were to be written today, would be one of total, uncompromising, and highly controversial disruption. He is the digital era's version of the court jester, the revolutionary, and the agitator all rolled into one. He has challenged the way we talk about race, the way we talk about crime, and the way we talk about the responsibilities of community. He has brought issues that were previously kept in the shadows of the justice system into the bright, harsh glare of the internet's spotlight. He has made it impossible for us to look away, even when the things he says make us turn our heads. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this content, please press the subscribe button.